And Rainey, could we have the consent agenda?
Do we have a
Oh, wait,
special
wait,
order
wait,
of business?
Sorry, we have special business.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, I apologize for it being now 5 to 11, but we do have for you a brief report on where we are with the budget process. As you know, we have concluded 2 budget workshops. We have concluded a community survey process. We have Lynn Monti here, who has worked as a consultant for the city to help us through this. She has a short presentation she would like to make with the results of this. We will take these results now and incorporate them into the final work being done on the proposed budget, which you will have no later than Friday, October 7th, in anticipation of your first budget workshop on Saturday, October 15th. And unless there's any initial questions, yes, the presentation is at your places and will be on the screen. Lynn, good evening.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Lynn Monti of Lynn Monti Associates, and it's been my privilege to be engaged by the City of Evanston to assist in the citizen engagement experience called Engage Evanston. And tonight we have the citizen budget input results for you, and I will be making a presentation of this via slide presentation for you. And I think you also have the handouts at your place. So Engage Evanston has been a community outreach initiative that's really designed to try to create a partnership between the community and the city to engage in dialogue, to help shape the budget priorities. This experience has generated many service change ideas that have been the subject of surveys, workshops, online and paper surveys, and many other conversations, including staff analysis. Obviously, the point of all of this was to assist in closing the projected budget deficit of $2.1 million for the year 2012 and $3.9 million for fiscal year 2013, and add to that the potential of $2 million to be allocated toward capital projects would raise those deficits to $4.1 million and $3.9 million respectively. I'd just like to point out that few cities go to the lengths that the City of Evanston has to engage the community, and I think of real importance, and something that I note, and I find it quite a privilege to work with the community members and be their voice, is that many commented through many narrative comments, thanks and appreciation for being asked, for listening as well as does occur in this process. And obviously, all of the concerns and experience of individual community members are being brought to this forum because we not only are offering, an opportunity to make a statement about the 40 service change ideas, but open-ended questions and comments so that individuals can share their personal experience. So the method of design for this process was several-fold. It has first been, in an internal way, an identification of the city services that are delivered by the City of Evanston, and some 103 services were identified, and the creation of a value matrix utilizing the priority-based budgeting process that you've heard a great deal about already. I'm not going to go into great detail about that, but if there are questions, I would be happy to answer them. We've used a variety of vehicles, and as I mentioned already, the online survey and comments, paper survey and comment, and the paper survey distributed through the roundtable, and just extensive effort made to both distribute and collect these so that individual residents can have a chance to speak to them. And live workshops. There were 2 of them, the most in the past week, actually, one on the 17th on Thursday evening and one just this past Saturday morning. These are designed for ease of participation. They are not designed for statistical accuracy. This is more of a qualitative experience where members of the community are invited. There is obviously no selection of representative sampling of the community. So 2 phases, and an external and an internal process in each one. For phase 1, the external process began May 1st through 7th, where the community members generated online some 175 different budget ideas for cost containment and revenue enhancement using the Evanston website. There was broad encouragement for people to go to the website and offer these. The residents who have participated in the process in many ways have admitted to understanding the stresses and strains the city is going through, and they themselves experiencing the similar thing in their own lives. And so I think that it is, even at this late hour, and even after hearing a lot of commentary from citizens about their frustrations and difficulties with processes and policies, there is an appreciation for what you are all going through. Then I'd like to point out the internal process that went along with this, preparation of the value matrix, which again I will not go into in depth, the analysis of the 175 suggestions, and preparation then of 40, what were found to be 40 feasible service change ideas, which I'm abbreviating SCI there, but we'll call them service change ideas for use in the phase 2 process I'll be covering in a minute. Further analysis of those 40 for plausibility, application of best practices, and estimates of cost savings or revenue enhancement. And that wasn't possible on all 40, but you have seen documentation as a book of some 467 pages of background information demonstrated the research and analysis that went behind this and the estimates where they were possible. And then there was a survey of nearby and comparable communities, especially on the privatization issue. So phase 2 began in the last month, August 22nd to September 22nd. And I'm going to go through each of the forms and just describe a little bit about them. So for the online portion of phase 2, there was the budget survey posted there with the 40 service change ideas, and we received 884 responses to that survey. Individuals were to rank each idea from strongly agree all the way to strongly disagree. So there were 5 categories, and they could also select one idea not to pursue as a recommendation. We received 74 comments online, and of those 74, some of those included phone contacts that we received and email responses as well. And then finally online, individuals were offered the opportunity to give an opinion about the priority-based budgeting process that had been used. In print media, postcards were circulated announcing the process. There was a paper survey, as I explained already. 183 paper surveys were received via mail or drop-off at a variety of locations in the community. In this case, because of the limitations of a paper survey, respondents were asked to select their three most favored ideas and 3 least favored ideas. So unlike with the online process where they could comment on every single one, on the paper survey, they were only able to make limited selections. We received 83 written comments through the paper survey. And this is the postcard. Sorry, it's a poor image. It was a really nice postcard and very inexpensively printed, I might add, that announced the Engage Evanston budget process. And then this was the cover of the paper budget survey, which was a a 4-page survey. And as I explained, there were so many ideas in there and so much to say that the output or the individual responses had to be quite limited. Then we had the citizen input workshops last Thursday and Saturday, where 45 individuals attended in total the 2 workshops. Unlike the other processes, these are meant for citizens to confer with each other, so they're sitting in round tables having a conversation. And so the output in that case is by table rather than by individual. And so, again, with only 8 total tables, the data is not that easy to compare, but I'm going to show you the results in all these different forms so that you can see that we utilized a variety of means to elicit response. And I might add that this happens to be a favored response of mine because people are always more wise when they have a chance to confer with others and not only offer a singular perspective that may not be as well informed. In that case, the tables recommended top 10 from each table. So they're top 10 recommendations, and they selected one idea not to pursue. Okay, and for the recommendations, first off, this was a little short survey about the priority-based budgeting process, and you can see that we have some interesting results here about using the value matrix tool. 53% agreed that it was a good idea, and then mixed results after that. 34 disagreed. Should the value matrix continue to be used? Most people said yes, they thought it was of value. I think that a lot of the issue comes with agreement on the rankings, and there we have a lot of disagreement about the way city services were ranked. And so this would be an opportunity in the coming years when, or if you choose to use this tool again, to refine it, improve it, and perhaps have a tool that has more ownership and is more widely supported.
Lynn, if I could just interrupt you.
Please.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, there are several slides where we have broken up the responses by the online survey, the paper survey, and the workshops. I'd like to ask Lynn to just jump over them. That information is there for your information. And just to focus on the 2 slides that have the recommendations overall, which are on slide,
16.
Slide 16. And then also the least favored overall, in the interest of time, and certainly, Madam Mayor, members of the council, if you have other questions, we can answer them, but perhaps just to go through those composite slides, Lynn, and any thoughts that you have about what that tells you based on the bringing together of the 3 input forms.
Okay, I'm happy to do that, and thank you for the suggestion, actually. There is a lot of data in here, and it will be useful for you to review at your leisure. This is the compilation, and again, each of these processes had its own set of questions and ways of delivering its responses, so they are not exactly equivalent to one another. You'll notice in the far right column, I note that the workshops, all of the top 10 were included in that workshop's top 15 in terms of ranking. So just run through these very quickly. Properties exempted from property tax, increased collections, water sales to other communities, shared use, enforcement of codes and ordinances, civic center space rental, and so on. I won't read them all. Their online rankings are in the columns. Online ranking is the first column, paper ranking the second, and again in the third column, all of these were the workshops, were in the workshop's top 15. What is the data saying, I think is what City Manager Bobkowitz wants me to discuss. And I think that the simple answer is do the obvious and claim the revenue that's on the table through increased collections, enforcement, accuracy regarding exempted properties, collaborations, human resource efficiencies, renting space. I mean, all of those top matters were perhaps not the most difficult decisions to be made. Utilize what you can when what is obvious to claim the revenues on the table. Online respondents were overall more willing to consider privatization than was otherwise the case. There were mixed feelings on that subject, both a desire for the efficiencies that might be gained and also an expression of appreciation for the service provided by city personnel, and a distaste for people losing their jobs. And so, you know, these are the kinds of comments that, that kind of speak through the data, but don't necessarily jump out at you. So at this point, I would jump then to the least favorite ideas, the items that are suggested not to be pursued. And that's on page 21 of your handout if you are following in that way. Among those least favorite ideas, again.
Slide 21.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. There. Top one there is community health initiatives, followed by alcohol sales at city facilities, recreation programs and youth services programs, crossing guard, cultural arts center, affordable housing, ecology, then some more unusual city alley maintenance, not following the trend so much in information technology at the end. It seems that there is no appetite here for eliminating community health initiatives and social service programming, no appetite for expanding serving alcohol and serving alcohol at city facilities. And the programs and services related to children seem to be very prized, and people to be rather protective of those. So in closing then, these 40 service change ideas that the community has generated were discussed quite widely, were quite generated a lot of conversation. The comments and a comment document will be sent to you, which is rather lengthy and is not sufficiently prepared yet for your viewing, but that will be available in a day or two.
Excuse me, Alderman Fisk has a question.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm just curious, how many individuals have participated so far in all of the surveys, the workshops, online responses?
You know, I didn't total them, but we could do that quickly. It's probably 1,100 approximately.
Which is, I think, the highest number that we've seen. This is the third time we've had outreach. So I think, while I think we have additional work to be done on the online, I think we heard from, Lynn has made comments. We've heard from other members of the community. It's that balance between, overwhelming people with information to educate them, to get opinions, but then still make it accessible to people. So I think certainly the online respondents would indicate we did a better job of that by sheer numbers of people participating. But again, this is Evanston. Everyone has a better way of doing things, and I think what we've tried to do is, balance a lot of competing factors, the resources spent on the process, the time involved, all those things together. But I think, as Lynn has said, I think we can synthesize a number of messages, and that was the whole point, is to have those messages communicated not by just one person coming to a microphone at a council meeting to say what they want to say, but to giving as many people as possible an opportunity to participate. And I think we can claim at least some moderate success there, and my hope is this whole concept of Engage Evanston is something we continue to do. It's not something that just happens with the budget, but is an ongoing process, and hopefully as people become familiar with the ability to participate in these sort of exercises, those numbers will increase. I think we have residents that are very plugged in online. We have residents that aren't plugged in at all, and I think we have to be respectful to both, and paper survey versus an online survey, making both available, I think seems to work. Certainly even the paper survey numbers were as high, certainly higher than I would have expected, and certainly higher than anything we had done previously, having people actually fill something out and having to return it to us. So, if there's other questions, Madam Mayor?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's been very helpful.
That concludes, Marty had a 35-slide presentation that he's very sorry. He had beautiful graphs and charts this morning that got cut out, and then additional slides that got cut at 5 o'clock, and now, unfortunately, we talked about sausage making before earlier this evening, and it was very tasty sausage. So, Madam Mayor, that concludes